Welcome to our session. We're so excited to have everybody here to talk about this topic that is very near and dear to our hearts. We do a lot of virtual events, and we have a lot of experience with them. And maybe we should introduce ourselves and provide some background. So we appreciate your time here and hope you learned something today, and we'd love to hear your questions at the end as well, and through the app.
Yeah,
So.
and Brian and I have worked together a very long time at this point. I'm Jennifer, and we both actually started at Partners way back in the day, and then obviously when multiple companies came together and formed the new Cadmium, we came along as well. So in total, gosh, I started 12 years ago, and Brian, you're what, 13?
13, yep.
So obviously, we've seen the business evolve a lot over that time pertaining to the subject. And so, we're definitely still learning. And so we really consider, you all our peers. We work with associations. We learn from you. We try to help you when we can. And, we just think of it in that way, our relationship. So.
In fact, I would say that a lot of your work drives our work because you're always asking us to do new things and trying new things out. And sometimes we don't have the time to necessarily innovate ourselves. So we appreciate when people come to us with a problem and we can provide a solution.
Yeah.
And we really enjoy doing that.
So we just wanted to do actually a quick show of hands. Who in the room has actually done a virtual conference or a hybrid conference before? Okay. So about half, and we'd love, to hear your feedback along the way, as pertaining to what we're talking about, and how that's corresponded to what you've done in the past, and maybe some ideas moving forward.
Has anyone done just a strictly virtual conference from start to finish with no hybrid component?
Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
Great. Okay. So just, a high-level overview of what we're going to be talking about, just some of the basics of virtual events, ways that we've, helped our clients, with sponsors, building revenue, and we'll also talk about, the multiple options for live streaming, when we do just straight-up virtual conferences or hybrids, and then, of course, some takeaways. So the basics.
Yeah, so let's start with the basics. So I think we just need to kind of level set here. We're in 2024. It's been an interesting last few years as far as the event industry is concerned. Jen and I were talking about this earlier, but when we were at the Legacy Partners business, we were trying to do virtual events before the COVID time in 2020. We were already finding ways clients are coming to us and asking, hey, we just want to run a completely virtual event. What are your options? And so we started with phone services, then added video services, and before you know it, slide sharing and the sort of, modals that you're a little more used to now. But that's kind of where the genesis of this was actually before. And then, of course,
right before COVID, I remember we
Right.
were sitting around saying, maybe we should actually, have a dedicated team that starts working on virtual conferences, and that's right when COVID happened, right after that. And, if y'all were in the business at that point, it was all of a sudden you're drinking out of a fire hose. Everything had to go virtual and all at once.
And we were luckily prepared for that
Yeah.
because we already had solutions in place. So it was more a question of scaling them.
Yeah, how to do it. And so, then we kind of reached a strange time period, right, as COVID was around for a while, and we're like, do we go back in person? Do we still do virtual? Do we do a combination? And a lot of organizations were really trying to figure that out, how the industry was going to adapt and move forward in that way. And what we've found is, organizations are starting to do a little bit of each. Anything else on this slide you wanted to go over?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love these bullet points because again, they're sort of the foundation of what our takeaway is, and I guess this is our pitch to you, is that really there are three categories of events as we see it. There's virtual, there's hybrid, and then there's in person. We'll talk more about that later, but sort of our concept is that you have to be involved in all three. It just so happens that our speciality, as it were,
Right.
is virtual. So
And hybrid.
we're going to try to plug virtual into the bigger scheme of things as we see it, and then kind of get into the nitty gritty with that. And maybe this is kind of the perfect graphic to show where we are. So in 2024, based on a LinkedIn poll, this was the breakdown of how meeting planners were organizing their events. So in-person hybrid were the largest, and virtual was just behind by about 5 percentage points.
Yeah.
So, you know, us knowing the strengths of virtual, we sort of respect the place that it's taken in the meeting business these days, and we'll get into reasons for that as well. I think there's another point if you want to pop forward there. Yes, so as far as experience, you and I were saying earlier that we had 25 years combined experience working, and we'll get more into sort of our specialties in virtual events. But I think this is kind of where we are, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And of course, when we get to the time for questions and answers, we'd love to hear your feedback as well about how reasonable it is for an organization to do the three types of events. You know, obviously cost is always a factor.
Well,
So
it's
how do you
targeting
break it
different
down?
audiences, because we were just talking about one of our clients just a couple weeks ago had a huge in-person conference, and then just this week, Brian's actually been working, they've been doing a fully virtual conference following up after that massive, you know, in-person, and, you know, it's all targeting different audiences. They maybe want to reach more international, which they know aren't going to be coming in person, and, you know, each organization has to kind of figure that out, what their demographic is and what they want. Talking a little bit about, as we said, we've been doing this a while, and Brian just kind of wanted to show you more like where we started, and
Yeah, and I'll certainly keep this brief, but I just wanted to get a few laughs here because we started in Internet Explorer. We had and their systems weren't that far off. I mean, here's our questions from the audience. This is a phone conference, a phone bridge conference. So it's basically a phone stream that's being sent to a web page, and with ARS, audience response tools, and the audience, of course, is responding to it. This was in 2010 and 2009. So yeah, media platform. Maybe that rings a bell for some folks. And then, of course, the comment, next time consider using a backdrop. Doors and fire alarms don't do it. So obviously there was a video component to this. But I just laugh because almost every week I get that same comment one way or another, regardless of whether you ask presenters to use a blurred background or not, or any direction you give them, they still are going to do their own thing. And then there are, of course, the errors and all the things we had to figure out and still do from time to time, although systems have improved greatly from 2009, which is a very nice thing. So, oh yeah, and we communicate on AOL Instant Messenger, if that rings a bell for anyone. So that little logo is always digging on the bottom of your Windows 98 machine or XP.
did you have the dial-up noise going?
Oh, we were past modems, thank goodness. No, I think we had a commercial Comcast connection at the office, thank goodness. But
So obviously there's some advantages of doing a strictly virtual event. You know, obviously, you can reach a huge audience. Since COVID, some people are really not wanting to travel much anymore. You know, they're kind of used to just being in their at-home environment. They just want to log on. Obviously, travel has not been so fun, really, since COVID. Just this past week, with that whole meltdown is one example of it. Also, costs have been rising. And it's a time commitment, right? If you're going to go to an in-person conference, you're gone for the week, or for a long weekend. You can't kind of duck in and out throughout the day in your home environment. You can also reach a larger talent pool as far as many of your speakers, bringing in that group.
And certainly, in 2019, I think the main reason clients were coming to us in 2019 regarding virtual events was actually the travel costs as well. So that really, I don't think that component has changed.
Right, so even
in the
before
last 5
COVID,
years.
people
Yeah,
were kind of looking towards that.
that was the driver I was hearing.
Yeah.
So, and conference center costs and internet costs.
Yeah.
So.
And then some not, so obvious advantages, there's multiple ways for viewers to engage with each other. You can have, there's a whole myriad of ways that you can put together these conferences, breakout rooms to have small groups, using different platforms for it. We have some examples later on, but some clients really do some, what would be the word for it? Like, I'm thinking of
Unique
the-
configurations
yes,
just for their particular
unique
membership.
ways
Yeah.
to engage their audience, which we have some slides on later.
And games, prizes, challenges, all that too. So similar stuff to in-person events, of course, that you can have.
Right. So formats, I think you were going to talk about that.
Okay, sounds good. Yep. So so these are so looking at the virtual event space, we have kind of, I think, do we have one more bullet on there too? Yes. So kind of the whole life cycle of the virtual event, right? So we have completely live virtual events. Maybe that is the format most are familiar with. Everything is done in the moment. It's done basically in near real time.
And all online.
With live stream, all online. And then there are a variety of things, of course, you could do with that content once it's been created. Then there are replay events where this has its advantages and disadvantages. It's of course, you can pre-record all of your sessions or most of your sessions and then play them back at a given time. And you could still have your presenter, in the chat available to answer questions or even on camera after the replay is concluded. And yeah, it's convenient for presenters because it takes the pressure off. Although in my experience, I'm kind of an advocate for live events because when they're properly curated, even if something goes wrong, there's always a solution for that. And
but this is a good backup, like let's say, and we've had it happen before where all of a sudden a speaker is going to have to drop out saying, oh, I have to go on an emergency trip, that weekend of the conference. They can then pre-record their content and we can play it live.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've all encountered that for those of you who have done these types of events. You've certainly received a Zoom recording from a presenter and you played it back for their segment, and I'm sure it's worked out well. So, and maybe they were even in the chat to support it. They just couldn't be on camera.
Yeah.
So, on-demand virtual events, I don't know if this is a true category because, it's on-demand. There's no schedule. There's no impetus to arrive at a certain place at a certain time. Basically, it just opens up and you can watch the videos at your leisure. It's hard to get people to do that in my experience. I love having a timetable so they know where they have to be at a certain time. A lot of our schedule, since our daily life is driven by timetables for most of us, giving people a schedule to adhere to is great for participation. So in my experience, on-demand videos are not watched quite like scheduled videos.
And I'd say we don't do very many of these.
No.
No.
There
It's
might be a
just an
section.
option.
There might be a section
Yeah.
with on-demand, but it's great to package it live in the show, or at least as a replay segment.
And then what a lot of clients do is, they do one of these options, and then there's such an opportunity post-conference to use all that conference content in so many different ways. I know a lot of clients will break down the videos and, even offer different credit for video, or gosh, what else do you see? Like what that they do with their recordings and.
Yeah, pretty much, pardon me here for a second. Yeah, pretty much once the content has been recorded, there's so much you can do with it. You can resell it as part of, an all-access. So if you sold your conference as an all-access pass, maybe you could post those recordings for people who couldn't make some of the sessions. Or, of course, if you have 3 simultaneous breakouts, there's no way to be in 3 places at one time. So you can offer it as a pass, or you could resell it separately, or you can add it to, say, a learning repository as standalone items that can be watched at people's leisure. People may self-discover that content, days or weeks or even months after the conference. It certainly has a shelf life, especially these days.
So we find it's not just like the conference is over, that, it lives on.
Yes, the content lives on, especially if you do your best to share it and have a repository for it. And so, like I said, we've seen people resell the entire conference as a cheaper package after it's done. Cheaper is maybe not the best word.
Less expensive.
But yeah, it's a less expensive option. And they give it free to all the people who registered so they can watch it at a later time. And then they add it to learning repositories or even to maybe social media if it's appropriate as sort of a promo for their organization.
Yeah.
Here's something you can learn with us. Or maybe snippets thereof, as you said. So
Clips. So I don't think I said when I kind of said my name, but I'm a senior event producer for the managed events team. So really my job is to help you put on a conference. Those who have done a virtual or hybrid, they know the amount of work that actually goes into it. A lot of people, obviously an in-person conference is a lot of work. Some people who've never done a virtual before think, oh, this will be easier, but it's still a lot, and there are a lot of details to think about. And so, what I basically do is, do all the nitty-gritty stuff, so, you as a client can focus on the big picture, focus on content, focus on speakers, and then I come along and I'm like, okay, this is what we need to think about. These are options. Let's talk about them. And we start with a pre-event kickoff call, going over your project from start to finish. From that, we create a full, detailed project timeline. Those can get pretty intensive, but it's good because we set, when are these deliverables due? Who is, supposed to do what, and when are they supposed to do it? And then, we also do, talk with you about what's the best technology that you are going to be using with input from, he's on the multimedia team, but you're kind of liaison, right? So we're working with you, I'd be working with Brian, we'd be getting everything with Brian set up technology-wise, reporting back into you on that, making sure everything's set up right. We're going to test it, we're there for troubleshooting. We also do, and I have a couple of slides just to show you some examples. We can handle your registration, your whole virtual conference site set up, which is a project in and of itself. And we help with any attendee and speaker communication. We do all the tech checks and speaker rehearsals, of course, come up with the backup plans. We're there for session support. We can do moderation. We can do moderation as in just, being on live to help support speakers, introduce them. We also have a virtual MC option that we've used in the past. So you have somebody who is like kind of the face of the conference who's, like you have here in person, can help with we just talked about all that archive management, slew of post-event reporting we can do. And then obviously there's all that communication post-conference that we help to handle. A lot of details. A lot of details. So we do, the virtual conference sites, we have our program or our LMS Elevate that we use. Now I will say, some clients, they do registration on a different site and they have Elevate just as their, conference site. We can bring registrations into it, or Elevate itself can actually just handle registrations. So we also have a design team. Like I said, I kind of liaise with Brian on technology. Then I also liaise with our design team to come up with your overall conference site. This is one of our clients, Nixa. They kind of like to do a very basic, simple front-facing page here you see. But, it can be set up in so many different ways. Here's one we do every year for our Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, their blood cancer conference, that they do handle full Actually, no, I'm sorry. They actually take registration. We import it into Elevate, but then people just log into the site. But anything like, they had this idea of, our users are a little older, they're not very technologically, advanced. And so they actually came up with the idea, can we put together something like this, like a video where people can actually click and it navigates them. Here's where you click to join a session, something simple as that. But that's kind of an example of how we learn from clients and are able to incorporate that. What are your thoughts on?
Did John do that video?
Yes.
Or was that? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did a little in-house video help there to them. So, yeah, I mean, they are, they have people who have vulnerable immune systems and do skew older as well. So it's very important to make the experience as easy as possible to get into the sessions and not have too much run around. So.
And this actually is a client that does a mix of solely in-person, hybrid, and virtual, full virtual. Like they do their national conference, fully virtual, and then they have like conferences throughout the country throughout the year, like little mini conferences that they'll do hybrid or only in person. Okay. As we mentioned, just like being here for this in-person conference, like you're trying to think, okay, what kind of breaks do we need? How are we going to develop the schedule, flowing from keynotes to breakouts? Some people use, and he'll get into the technology a little bit later, but we'll have like a main, it's called StreamYard, that does the keynote sessions, but then we'll move into Zoom, let's say, to do breakout sessions. And that's a way to kind of bring in multiple platforms. What are your thoughts more on?
Yeah, I mean, we have a scheduling slide here because a lot of the schedules that we see are kind of grindy for attendees, like they don't get a break or they're really sort of trapped in the program all day, whereas we've also seen schedules where there are larger breaks, there's a lunch break, it's not sort of in your face all the time. With virtual, you're not sort of tied to the same schedule. I certainly feel like, I'm not saying you necessarily need a session at 8 in the evening, but respecting that flexibility that people have when they're home to go make a sandwich for lunch or take a quick walk. I find that I learn better when there's more space between sessions, and I think virtual always tries to follow in person, and they force shorter breaks. At this conference we have 15-minute breaks. It's not the end of the world in person because we're moving around, we're active, we're getting coffee. I'm getting coffee. But for virtual, I think it's important just to be an audience member and think to the virtual conferences you've attended and think about what worked for the schedule and what maybe didn't. And we try to consult and advise clients on that, but a lot of times they're sort of like, no, this is how we do it in person, and we're going to follow the same 15-minute breaks all day. Seems a little tight to me. That's my 2 cents on that. But at the end of the day, you guys run the show, so if it's 15-minute breaks, we can do that.
So moving on.
Yes, revenue and partnerships.
Yeah, and so a lot of it is, same as you do for an in-person conference, but, you're just transferring it to the virtual realm. But there's early bird discounts. You're able to offer within our conference site, coupon and promo codes. I see lots of clients put together different package levels, full access, tracks people can be on. And I think you've seen, like with the keynote speakers and presenters, them really hype those up. I know we did, right, for this conference, right?
Absolutely,
with Tracy.
yeah. If you have a headliner, you really can really tout them.
Sending those marketing emails, we can send those through our system. Y'all can send them separately, linking to us if need be, and other incentives for early registration.
I think virtual is really well suited for large audiences, and also it's so well suited for almost any size audiences. You can have a huge audience. In May, we had about 4,000 people on a show that actually had a free registration because it was grant funded. So that was a great use of the platform. And it would be impossible to get that number of people into maybe even the DC Convention Center without taking the whole floor over or more. So at the same time, you could have a small event with a high ticket price for some very exclusive content or very motivational content, or opportunities to network virtually as well. So pharma comes to mind for some of those
Yeah.
that I've been involved with.
Yeah.
So where it's a small audience but huge entrance fee,
Yeah.
huge paywall. So
Sponsors, oh my gosh, there's so many opportunities. On our platform, you can do an exhibit hall, a virtual exhibit hall. I've seen, exhibitors on these build intricate booths, so as simple as they just link to a website and anything in between. You can put, sponsor logos all over the site. There's, I know one client breaks it down by sponsorship levels. They have a sponsor page broken down by levels, special sponsor sessions. So one of my clients, they do actually within their agenda for each day, like 2 or 3 15-minute segments that they call lightning talks. And so the sponsor actually will get up and do a 15-minute presentation. So that's obviously a great way to work that in. We've seen commercials, them do sponsorship commercials before a session, in between sessions, obviously special call outs in the program, and just integrating it with the branding. Like, I think if we go back to, way back, right at the bottom, I didn't get all of it, but they have the sponsor logos all at the bottom. So many different ways.
And they do get a card of their logos at the beginning and end of each session that the technician will display in their live stream. So they get a lot of, it's very important to them that the sponsors are shown.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times, like you said, logos, commercials, video roll-ins. It's all doable with video since it's such a, moldable format. So if you can imagine it, there's a way to integrate it.
Yeah. And I think one of my clients actually uses the conference site. They have a page specifically for potential sponsors and the different sponsorship levels and the pricing and contact us. And it's a way to, reach out to get those sponsors in.
Yeah, and that certainly, sponsors may not apply to everyone. So
Right.
we'll say that caveat too. You may not be in a position where your organization can do sponsorship, and that's not an issue either. But this is something to think about because we get approached a lot about it. Hey, how can we integrate it? How can we give our sponsors some, stream time, as it were?
Okay. So we talked about that there are a ton of different video options, and Brian here's the expert on this, so I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, yeah, and I don't want to belabor this too much because we've all seen live streaming on YouTube or Facebook, there's a million different ways to originate it. There's a million different ways to, carry it across a CDN, a distribution network, and then of course to your viewers. But essentially what we work the most in is Elevate with our Media Center platform, which is sort of a video window-based platform with audience response tools on the side. No surprise there. I think most platforms are similar to that, although we're very fond of our tools that we use. Event Scribe website, of course, which is carrying the keynote sessions from this conference. Same idea. You have your video window and then your response tools. And in this case, it's also linked up with the app too. So for asking questions, these are great tools to have available. WarpWire is our CDN that's owned by Cadmium and part of our company, and runs all the content out, which is really nice. So we used to have to use other people's CDNs, and now we have our own video distribution and archival platform, which is awesome. So virtual studio platforms, maybe you all have heard of these. I'll start from the back because everybody knows Zoom. But there's EVMux, Restream.io, StreamYard. These are basically online video switchers where you come in with your presenters, you turn on your webcams, and you're able to send that program, that curated program, out anywhere you want. You could send it to YouTube, send it behind a paywall, whatever applies to your organization, or simultaneously to both. And we have clients who will sometimes stream a session to Facebook for publicity's sake, especially if it's a keynote or a free session. And that's what the simulcasting bullet there is about. Basically, you can send your video stream to many different destinations. With most of these platforms, I'm not so sure about Zoom, but with StreamYard, for example, you can send it to many different destinations. If that applies to your organization, it could be a helpful tool to have. If you wanted to send, say, your keynote to Facebook or the first half hour of a session to Facebook, you can do that. And yeah, where you can configure it, that's a little more technical. Yeah, so we can, your Cadmium multimedia specialist can advise you on any questions you have about that.
And I think one way we've really evolved in this are we post-COVID? I don't know. Since the height of COVID, I should say, is, before COVID, when we would go do a live stream, a content capture, a hybrid conference, we'd have a whole team of us come on your site, right? And, obviously, that's going to cost the extra money. During COVID, was it John who came up with it? He was the head of our multimedia, the RTMP. So he was like, okay, what's the best way that we can help as many conferences? Because, we have a limited number of people. So, and at a better cost. So he's developed this whole RTMP system where we just either work with your AV, make sure they have the right equipment, and it's just a conversation with them where we're able to live stream out of your conference for a hybrid without actually having a whole team on site. Did I describe
Correct.
that right for
That's
RTP?
about right. Yeah, I mean, we're drifting a little bit into hybrid events,
yeah.
but yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
Okay.
So this is just a quick demo of what the studio might look like. This is the StreamYard studio.
Hello everyone, welcome to StreamYard. My name is Brian and I'll be your technician for this program. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how the software works. First of all, we have 4 different looks we can choose for our lower thirds. This is called Bubble. We can use Classic. We can use Minimal. Or we can use Block. We can also change the color that you see on the lower third. We can also change the background you use during your program. Okay, so now that I've shown you the basic features, let's bring in another presenter and look at some of our layouts available to us. Hi, Brian. Hi, Brian. So let's start with our basic 2-on-2 close-up. Then we have our 2-on-2 wide angle. Then we have one large, one small, and we can swap the views as the technician pleases. Then we have a view of a presenter with a small slide. So this is a screen share. And then of course we have multiple presenters or just a single presenter with their shared slides. And then of course we have a view kind of like Zoom, as you might expect, and a full screen slide view. All right, well, thanks so much for joining our program today, and we'll talk to you soon.
So, so just a real quick look at the features from one of these online video platforms. I just, as a video guy, I love the options that they offer. I like that they keep it simple, and the programs look so nice for virtual shows. You just need one technician to basically run each session, and they move the people around, make sure they're all set up and comfortable, and sort of, make sure they kick off the session well, and then wrap it up at the end. So we're a huge fan of those platforms, and of course, in early 2020, they became just ubiquitous all over the internet.
I just realized now I got ahead of myself when I was talking about
No,
the
that's fine.
RTMP.
So that's the source. So how live streaming works, I don't want to belabor this too much because it's dorky stuff I put in there because I'm interested in it. But I'll certainly just give the quick rundown. So you start with a live virtual studio like we just saw, and you broadcast that out to via RTMP, which is real-time messaging protocol, to a CDN, a content delivery network like WarpWire. And that distributes the videos to a bunch of different destinations around the US and around the world, depending on which CDN you're using and how it's configured. And the point of that, of course, is to get the video quickly close to the people who are going to be watching it. Because you don't really want someone connected directly to a server in New York if they're watching from California. It's better to have a distribution point in California. The delay is generally pretty short, near real time to about a minute. That just depends on the CDN and the technology you're using. The video player collects analytics. In our case, we pass our LMS data to the video player, and it tracks, for example, how long people are in the session, what computer technology they're using, where they're connecting from. And I think there was another session that showed kind of some of the visuals you get with that, which are really nice. And then, of course, you can live stream to multiple destinations. I think we covered that.
So we had mentioned, ways to get your audience engaged during these conference. It ranges from the most basic, which is, just the chat room where they ask questions. But even within this most basic, there's so many different options. Like some clients want every question to automatically go out for the whole audience to see. Others prefer it that moderated, so they have somebody actually looking at each question coming in and publishing it. So the audience thinks like they're seeing every question that's coming out, but it is actually being filtered. And then obviously some clients prefer just to keep all questions private. They don't, want the whole audience to see any of them. We do have polling that we use for interactivity, emojis, which we'll see in a moment. Anything you can think of. We have raffles you've had a lot of clients use raffles in the past.
Yeah, the live raffle.
Yeah. Obviously asking people where they're from. Simple stuff like that. But probably the biggest area that we've grown in most recently, I would say, is in the accessibility. And I know so many clients are asking about this now. And, closed captions are being pretty much a given at this point, both for the live sessions and for the recordings. What we're seeing a lot more of most recently, and I know, Brian, at AIMC, we've been using these, are the ASL interpreters. So we use them with regular webinars, but I know in a lot of the conferences you've been doing recently, having the interpretation there. And then you have a certain way you set that up, right?
Yeah, it's really, since it has the responsive video design, you could put your interpreter in the corner and kind of keep them there, so they're very visible without sort of taking over the frame. So again, that's why we like these virtual video platforms, because they allow you to set that up in advance and then kind of have a nice framed view of everything that's going on.
And we can even do the multiple language interpretations now as well. This is a shot of what emojis look like. And now we have a video showing it too.
We're investing in the workforce. We're investing in the services.
It's just, something
we're working
simple,
on the
but,
policy issues that are necessary.
a lot of people
to make
actually
sure
use them.
We
can even give you, sorry, I'm throwing my glasses. We can even give you a report of people who used emojis. There's a lot of reporting we can do.
But it really gets you fired up when you see those rising like that. It's
that are necessary
because we're
sure
behind a computer screen, all of us. Any sort of clue that the audience can provide to how they're feeling
that they're out
is a big deal, right? When people see that, they get really excited and they join in. And I think you'll talk, Jennifer, about some ways to kind of get people excited about the upcoming session and how to
actually, this is you
work with them. Oh, yes. And I guess, So another way of engagement is doing like a game show style. For this particular client, the SOA, they have a end of day session for their conference where in this case, it's a Survivor, but they just this summer did Barbie too as their theme, and it was hilarious because Society of Actuaries the content might be a little dry for us, but certainly they get into these sessions where there's a theme to it, and someone's the judge. And then everybody sort of pleads. They have an actuary who's basically exactly a tribunal. So those are really fun, and the engagement's high on them. And just trying to share some ideas that we've seen that we thought were really creative and really got people involved and led to really good feedback for the conference.
Another example, not as fun as this one, but I know a conference that I recently was on helping with that. They had the regular sessions, and then at the end of the day, there would just be like a small breakout Zoom session with each one of the speakers who presented. And so, people could just log on and it was more like open conversation. It wasn't like you couldn't see any of the audience members. Everyone was just in a regular Zoom meeting, and they could just talk with each other, answer any questions that they maybe weren't able to get to. They called it just kind of like a little happy hour chat. So it's another way to kind of get the audience in with you. So, it depends on the conference. Some conferences obviously are pretty open. We're just here to give you information. We hope you come. Others are, they're giving credit, CMEs. They definitely need to make sure that the audience showed up to get that credit. So we offer, such things as QR codes, verification codes. Some clients use poll questions, so once we pull the report, they can make sure, people were paying attention.
You have to vote, exactly.
Yeah, you have to answer the poll question to get credit. I should back up a second. Those viewer codes and QR codes will come up like at certain times throughout each session, so that they know that people were paying attention at those points. And, beyond that, we do have, like I said, lots of reporting outside of emojis that can collect pretty much anything that you want on your audience.
Did you say, Jennifer, that the emojis are actually tracked if someone clicks
Yes.
on those?
Yeah, there is an emoji report.
Oh, I
Yeah.
learned something. Good.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very difficult to track people just based on having them show up because they switch devices or they switch networks. There's just, you don't want to have the trouble of trying to disentangle that mess after a session. So having something on screen or a poll or something that's sort of, it's ironclad. Either they're going to vote or they're not. So.
And also in the conference site, they can put in, like, in order for them to unlock their certificate or that credit, they'd have to enter the verification code. So it's all right there within the same system.
Or take a quiz for that matter, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't really get into that. But yeah, of course you can have, in Elevate, you can have requirements to pass from session to session. So if you want your credit, you have to take a quiz and pass, kind of thing. So easy to program, quick and easy.
So just like we had Aaron in the room with us today, a moderator, we really recommend it for every session that you do, whether it be just a staff member, whether it be someone from our team, but you want to make sure you have somebody there, making sure that your speakers have joined, making sure the technology is working. They can, make sure the session is running smoothly, and we've had it before where, a speaker's internet went out, and so you need that person there. With a script at the ready. We have clients actually develop a script for that moderator to read in case the speaker drops, so they're not just winging it until that speaker joins back on. And, it of course allows the presenter just to focus on their presentation and not worry about the rest of it. As I mentioned, we can do it. Lots of times staff, your own staff members will do it. We can train your staff members, and, we're also there, obviously we're just not going to leave it to your moderator. If something's seriously going wrong with your session, we're going to be hopping on. We have a tech on with you, so it's not like you're just left to you and your staff.
Yeah, and it's really the size of your staff, I'm sure, drives a lot of these points. Some organizations can rope in people to be moderators, and there you have it. So we train them up, and they run them. Others want the scripted look, that they get from a Cadmium event producer, so we can provide that. But as she said, as Jen said at the beginning, you really want a moderator in every session. That's just our take on it, because inevitably they need to fill time with something. If you have, one session is one thing, but if you have a whole bunch of sessions, one of them is going to have some kind of issue. So moderators smooth that out, and they say, okay, we lost our presenter. Let's, in the meantime, let me tell you about some of our upcoming, sessions. Yeah, and then before you know it, the presenter's back.
Yeah.
The session continues, and there's nobody scratching their head as to what's going on.
We also do have a whole support team available. So, if you have attendees who are needing help, they can't get on, we have the email and the chat a whole team to help them out. So we do usually, well, not usually, we do suggest that all of your presenters and moderators do a test session on whatever platform you're using for the conference. That second bullet point would be more of a technical
Sure.
thing for you.
Yeah, and I mean, the test session is to check their equipment. Since everybody's coming with their own laptops and own internet connections, it's great to get that tested out in advance. And people can just answer questions. They see how it is getting into the platform, hopefully pretty straightforward for them. So that sort of, we've found those are almost something we need to build in for our events, and we always test our presenters now. It's very highly recommended.
Yeah.
And then, backup CDN, you do have to have a backup place in case there is an issue with one of your streaming platforms to move it to another platform. So we could do that as well.
And then obviously, we ask for materials super early. I like to, if my deadline is August 20th, I want to tell people it's actually due July 20th, because then you might get it by August 20th.
Or at least a week in advance, I think, is kind of the point of the
exactly.
realm in that case, yeah.
And plan Bs goes along with test. Ready to go emails. I mean, what if all of a sudden, I don't know, we've actually had it happen before where one whole part of, I don't want to say the internet, but some server from the East Coast went down and all users dropped from that region, and so
regional outage.
Right, regional outage. And so there's already preset emails that can be sent out that you're not having to concoct something right off the top of your head at that point. So you have emails for any possible situation that could happen, ready to go. As I mentioned, that backup scripting for moderators and speaker phone numbers. Oh my goodness. Because how many times do speakers not show on time? And you're like, are they coming or are they not? I don't know.
Right.
So making sure you have all of that information, not just an email, Anything else on this?
100%. The phone numbers, it's another requirement.
Yeah.
There's a column for it in the Excel document these days. So just in case somebody gets disconnected, it's great to have your phone ring and say, hey, how's your internet?
Or what time zone do you think this is starting in?
Oh, well, that's the more common.
Oh, wait, it's 11 a.m. Central? No.
Yeah, so that's just par for the course now. It's collecting phone numbers too, so.
So anyway, that's our presentation. I hope we covered at least some information that was interesting to you all. But I know a couple of you have done these before. Has this fit any of your experience thus far? Or I don't know if y'all want to offer up anything.
Yeah, we'd love to hear general questions about what we've presented, or we'd love to hear experiences. Because, sometimes when you're working on virtual events, you're working a little bit siloed because, there's our experiences that we sort of do what the client asks us. So almost every event we do is unique in some way, whether it's the way the sponsors are integrated, whether it's the ARS tools. But, these days, there's really no one solution fits all. It's all kind of customized on what your membership or what your viewers are used to or what they want to see or how you want to present to them.
Yeah.
So it's really almost always a conversation.
Oh,
and so we'd love to hear, your thoughts about virtual events, and I can bring the mic around to anybody who has anything to say. Maybe it went well, maybe not so well. But we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. So hello everyone, I'm Annalita Corti. I work for APTA, American PT Association in Alexandria. We did a hybrid event last year, in person and also stream via Zoom. It's safe to say a lot of things that could go wrong went wrong. And I wish we knew you guys have a team, or this is something that we could have reached out to Cadmium for help because when we were setting the event up, we were doing a lot of the things ourselves, and we didn't know that there's a team here, a wonderful team like you guys, and probably some more people as well. So to me, it's just great to hear that you have this team and you're giving a lot of these great suggestions, which I hope all of you are taking notes, because like I said, our event went wrong and my boss is very much scarred, so I don't know if we'll do that again, but I think it's hopeful. I'll tell her that, hey, they have a team that could potentially help us out if we do it again. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thanks for sharing. And I think, I'm sorry, I run up here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean,
What could go wrong, we've seen go wrong too, but and we all have learned from those experiences, right? And that's how we've developed a lot of the stuff we do now, is precisely for that. But yeah, I mean, it's a situation where the unexpected is definitely going to happen. But, having been there before, we do have those things in place at this point. But I think we have someone else who...
Yeah, and I would certainly add that, just reach out and have a conversation. Tell us what you want to do, and at the minimum, we can give you our advice, and, hopefully it would be helpful. Just at least some experience to shed light on the process.
Thank you. Hi, I just want to share an experience. Definitely during the COVID time, we all have to pivot the, face-to-face to virtual completely. And that's what we did. And the experience I want to share with you guys that we have to utilize every single staff member to host, to run each session 100%. Even the finance team doesn't know anything about it, but we got them trained, and they say, wow, hey, that's a new skills, their profile there. So that's one thing. But the thing that we encounter was the time zone. West Coast, East Coast, luckily we don't have international members. But that's confusing. So we have quite a few people miss out the virtual meeting. But anyway, we work it out, at the end, and let them do the, I guess, on-demand kind of thing. So that's one thing we still struggling right now, a little bit, but we're getting better on a different time zone. Yeah, we did not know Zoom better a few years before, So that's just one experience I want to share with you.
One cool thing is, with the Elevate site, you can actually set it so each user sets their own personal time zone, so they see it, at the time that it should be.
Most of people now have to use Zoom or any of the meeting platform. So we familiar with this time zoning now.
But it's definitely a struggle for everybody, for sure. I hear clients, just the other day I had a client talking about it. Oh, Sarah?
Thanks, Jen. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sarah. I'm one of the solutions engineers, and I just wanted to say that these guys are awesome. They are more awesome than you think they are, because whenever I have questions about Zoom or which setting I need, I go to Jen, or Jennifer, whichever you prefer. I always say Jen, because it's shorter. But I go right to Jennifer, and I'm like, wait a minute, what do I need? What do I tell the client? Which recommendation is best? And whenever I have a question about anything else live stream, I go to Brian. So I can just vouch for the fact that they really are that good. So if you do need a team, and I know I'm not trying to actually be salesy here, but just say, like, they are that good. It's so exciting because they really are that good. Okay, that was all.
I'm Brian Lee, and I work at the Association of American Medical Colleges, and I'm going to co-sign everything you say. We have been contracted and working with them for production for our webinars specifically for years now, and both of them are really awesome. They have plan B, C's, everything just kind of like works without a hiccup. And also because of the great experience that my colleagues have had working with both of you, they are now interested in kind of saying, hey, we want to do more of this. How can we learn how to do these things for other things that we're doing as well? So I may be looking to you for some support around training soon, but just to co-sign everything you said about how awesome they are and how amazing it helps to have everything work out for you. Yeah.
Oh, it's
turned into the Jennifer Bryan Appreciation Party. Yeah. Any other questions or comments on experiences or? Cool.
Has anyone used like StreamYard or one of these other solutions other than Zoom? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Media Center.
Okay.
It's been a while. Actually, I'm with the American Society of Interior Designers, and we did virtual conferences during COVID, so 2020 and 2021. And I will just, I guess, second what everyone else has said, that the first year we involved, well, at that point, partners. I mean, you were involved in like building our site and helping with that, but we were more do-it-yourself, and we learned. And so when we did it again in 2021, we're like, yes, we do want your production team. We'll do everything at our keynotes at Media Center with the cool emojis. And so yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Oh. My sister's actually an interior designer. I'll have to get her hooked up with you. Yeah. No, I mean, and we definitely learned during COVID too. Oh my goodness. I mean, like we talked about it, we were doing this before COVID, but when COVID happened, as you said, everybody had their in-person conferences planned, and on a dime, we had to switch to totally virtual. And I know, we developed so much, even just with Elevate. I remember just the way we were building out virtual conferences before COVID totally changed. It was a lot, as I'm sure you all know. But I think, everyone's just finding their footing now, getting into the post-pandemic. This is how we do things now.
I do have one question. Our group, we do when we have face-to-face, we did a sit-down dinner for auction, live auction event. Now we still do auction, but it's a silent auction, but it looks like it's going downhill here. What do you recommend? Do you have any suggestion to rally?
And see, that's a classic example of clients come to us with unique situations like that. I have never done something like that before, but like we talk about all the time, we figure out a solution for it somehow. So that's.
PCO did silent auction.
Oh, well, see, and I didn't know
did
that. You
silent
said you've
auctions.
done that before?
The question, so you want to drive more people to the auction? Okay. Online. So when you have sessions, are you promoting that? Are you asking people to come? Interesting. I'm surprised because people like auctions. That's really fun, seeing, even if it's not necessarily something that you need. Yeah, QR code. Maybe there's a way to motivate more people to come. Maybe you could have a couple giveaways in there as well, like maybe a couple freebies, or for the people who are, you don't want one or two people dominating the auction. You want to get a lot of people bidding and active. So. Well, you could. You could possibly do a live version of it. If you had an MC on camera talking to the audience and the chat's coming in, and you didn't get too many people. How many people would you want versus how many are you getting? And you're getting. Okay.
I think they're about to give us the hook.
Okay. Uh-oh. But yeah, we could.
Okay.
Let's do it. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Have a wonderful rest of the conference. We appreciate your time and hope everybody learned things today. We will continue the conversation.